Just one final thing. This question was asked of Peter Dutton yesterday. Have a look.
During your campaign launch, your Nationals leader spoke extensively about how much of a man you were. Your deputy opposition leader spoke and gave ode to the boys in blue and the tradies. You talk about mining, construction, agriculture and energy being the four pillars of the economy. In your own campaign launch speech, you mentioned women twice, and that was in relation to how you protect them from domestic violence and crime. A lot of your campaign has been at petrol stations, you've been in trucks. When you speak about female-dominated industries like education, you talk about the woke agenda. What are you offering modern working women?
I think it's a fair question to put to Labor as well. What are you offering modern working women in this campaign, Jason Clare?
Well, I'll give you one. We recognise the right of Australian women and men to work from home. You know, many Australian women work from home. I think Peter Dutton saying that he didn't think it was right to work from home and then realised that there was this enormous backlash shows that Peter Dutton doesn't understand modern families. He doesn't understand the money that you save when you can work regularly from home, or the time that you save as well. It showed just how out of touch he is with Australian families, and in particular the stresses and the pressures on Australian women. So that's just one. But the investments that we're making in women's health are another good example of that.
Which is bipartisan now as well, you'd agree?
Well, I think it's Labor that proposed it.
Yep.
The Liberal Party
that
were quick to scramble a response.
Yeah, absolutely. But
that's right. And
so
the election's on May the 3rd. And
does Chris Minns not understand modern working women either? Because he wants people back.
Can I give you another example then?
At least 3 days a week.
Let me give you another example. So there's been a lot of talk about housing. The Housing Australia Future Fund was something that I proposed as the Shadow Minister for Housing that we've now been able to implement after the Greens and the Liberals teamed up to stop it for what felt like almost for forever. It builds social housing for homeless Australians and affordable housing as well. We've earmarked or quarantined a big part of that 20,000 social homes for women fleeing domestic violence. Now, what I learnt when I was the Shadow Minister is that our refuges are full, that women often have to be turned away from refuges because they're full, and a big part of that is because there isn't permanent housing for women fleeing a violent partner to be able to live in permanently. So 4,000 homes that are permanent homes built by the government for women fleeing domestic violence. Guess what Peter Dutton has promised to do? He's promised to get rid of that scheme. So you want the difference between Labor and Liberal when it comes to supporting and protecting and recognising and respecting Australian women? Well, there's a pretty good example.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gripe from that journo was when Peter Dutton talks about women, it's often only in the domestic violence space. He talked about that the inference was as well that tractors and petrol stations are the domain of men. What do you think about that? Because, I mean, you get the lines out of the leaders every single day, and these journos on the campaign, they're trying to get something human, a human response out of the leaders when you hit the halfway mark, because often it gets a little bit robotic. But what do you think about that? Like, is everything gendered in that way?
Well, two things. You know, one, we just talked about early educators. You know, 95% of people who work in early education are women. You want another example of the difference between the two parties? Well, there it is. You know, we're investing more than $3 billion to lift the wages of our early educators. Peter Dutton wants to get rid of it. You know, I think more and more, as more people see Peter Dutton, it's, you know, the less they like what they see. It's the dodgy policies on work from home. It's the dodgy candidates. You know, they've got one candidate convicted of financial deception, and then it's Dutton himself. Remember, for the last 6 months of last year, he only did one press conference. About that? Well, I'd back her 100%. And the fact that they're now throwing dirt at her shows that she is a real shot. A real shot. The bottom line is a vote for Lee is a vote for Dutton. A vote for Lee is a vote for Anthony Albanese. But let me finish on this point, because you asked about press conferences. You know, Peter Dutton did one press conference at Parliament House in the last 6 months of last year. People couldn't see him. Now they see him every single day. And the more they see him, the less they like him, A lot of people are getting, a good look at Peter Dutton at the moment, and they're shaking their head and they're saying, this bloke is not ready to be Prime Minister of Australia. He's not fit to be Prime Minister of Australia, and he's not the right person to be the Prime Minister of Australia.
You sound pretty confident. Do you think you got this one in the bag, Jason?
No way. The fact is Labor's only been in power about a third of the time. When the Prime Minister says we've got a mountain to climb, he's absolutely right. He says that if we were to be successful here and win this election, he would be the first Prime Minister to win 2 terms since John Howard. That's right. I think the task for us is even bigger than that. The fact is that if we were to be successful in winning the trust and the support of the Australian people, he'd be the first Labor Prime Minister to do that since I was a kid, since Bob Hawke, since 1990. So this is an enormous challenge that we face, but we're going to work our guts out every single day to win the support of the Australian people.
Great to have you on AM Agenda, Jason. Really appreciate it, bringing some life to the campaign. See you soon.